Spring Renewal is the theme for Artists in Action's 5th annual springtime event, showcasing works of art that conceptualize either spring or spring renewal in any sense of the words. The Spring Renewal Art Exhibition is held during April at Elsinore Fine Art Gallery, located at 444 Ferry Street Southeast in downtown Salem, Oregon. An opening night reception coincides with Salem's First Friday events on April 5th between 5 to 8 p.m., with the awards ceremony at 5:30 p.m. The show runs through April 30th. While you're there, be sure to cast your vote for People's Choice. This year's art judging was by artist Susan Bourdette. Susan grew up in a family of nature lovers and began identifying and drawing wildlife and plants at an early age. For her, no piece of her artwork has ever seemed complete without an element that could fly or dart from the page. Her luminous watercolors combine realistically detailed birds and animals with soft, impressionistic backgrounds, a technique that has evolved over many years of painting. AIA's latest approach to judging and awards is similar to the awards for last year's Spring Fling. Rather than traditional place awards, AIA recognizes those artists whose artwork exemplified the event's theme in multiple categories with Best Awards. AIA believes this method stretches the creative muscle, promotes a winning balance between newer and established artists, and distributes the kudos and prize money among more individuals. There were 67 entries this year, and awards were given for Spring Renewal Best of Show, Best Representation of Spring, Best Representation of Renewal, Best Botanical Composition, Best Spring Landscape, Best Still Life, Best Abstract Art, Best Use of Unconventional Materials, 2 honorable mentions, the Elsinore Gallery Award, and there is another open award, and that's People's Choice. But no one is going to know the results of the selection there until the end of the show come April 30th, at which point the award will be posted on the Artists in Action website, and that website is artistsinaction.org.
Hi, everyone. I'm Susan Burdett. I'm a local watercolor painter, and I'm here to jury the Spring Renewal exhibit for Artists in Action. I've been an Oregon resident for over 50 years, and I've been painting for half a century, which is hard to believe. Grew up in Montana and graduated with a degree in art and biology from Montana State University. I've, during my long painting career, written 2 Northlight books and have done several instructional videos, taught a lot of workshops, and painted a whole bunch of paintings, which doesn't make me an expert on painting. It just makes me somebody who absolutely loves art. I think I love painting as much now after half a century as I did when I first started many, many years ago. So I look to see that same kind of excitement when I jury a show. I specialize in watercolor. It is a very temperamental medium. I enjoy the unpredictability of watercolor and the spontaneity of it. But it's one of those media where sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. When it does work, it's like magic. And when it doesn't, that's very sad. But I do look for that magic, and I look for it in the pieces that I jury as well. When I look at your work, I'm looking, of course, for the basics: design, color, composition, values, the building blocks that make a good painting. But beyond that, I'm looking for something that draws my attention from across the room. If I see a painting and there's an awesome idea behind it, makes me want to step closer and look at it, then that's the thing that often makes me decide on the award. And also, I look for that magic moment that happened for me, and I'm looking for some situation where it happened for somebody else as well. My first honorable mention choice is this lovely oil painting by John McFadden entitled Snowdrops. This piece is fascinating because he's taken a very tiny subject and made it much larger, which is a whole different way to look at it. I really like the background, the leaf mold, and the progression from this area down here where it's very dark and you can feel the plants are rooted down here to the very light area. There's a lot of nice purple, different color in here that have been worked in there in an abstract way. I love the way that the green leaves with their spiky characteristic poke up through the painting. And the contrast is nice with the white snowdrops. So good piece, very nice. So with my second honorable mention, I'm going from large to very small. This is entitled Spotted Black Crow Butterfly. It's painted by Jim Richards, and it's a little oil painting on a gesso board. Jim actually had a series of 3 of these. And what intrigues me so much about this tiny piece is that he created the perfect backdrop for the butterfly. He's created a feeling of the backlit foliage behind, and this nice light diagonal that cuts through it is exactly the right place to put the legs of the butterfly and the little head and the antenna and the edge of the wing so that those things really pop. It's a great dark to light contrast. And the imagery is just suggested in the background, just enough. So it's a little gem. One of our categories is the best use of unconventional materials. And this is a piece by Cameron Covey. It is an absolutely gorgeous piece of wearable art. I love her use of all the color interspersed and interwoven together, so it is just a wearable flower garden. There's a lot of intricate little stitching and patterning in here, and the way that colors are overlapped and interwoven together is really very lovely. Beautiful piece. So the next category that I'll be talking about is the best abstract. We did not have much in the way of non-representational pieces in the show, but we had quite a few pieces that were inspired by nature and are therefore the artist's interpretation of something. And this is one of my favorites. I absolutely love it. It is by Susan Appleby, and it is called Big Bird Looking Along the Shore. The medium is acrylic. I think what I like the best about this piece is the feeling of intention and action in those birds. I'm, of course, a bird person, so I watch shorebirds a lot, and they have sort of a frenetic energy about them when they run along the shore together to forage for food, and she has caught that quite nicely. I also really like the layering of color in the background so that the blue is not just blue, it's got all the other colors in it. And the sand color is also very nicely varied. The overlay of the sand color into the blue gives us a good feeling of the water's edge. And I like the calligraphy in it on the birds and in the painting. So, lovely piece. This category is the best still life. We didn't have very many still lifes in the show, but the determiner here was that it said best spring still life. And this painting is by Shirley Giesbrecht. It is an acrylic on canvas. And I think that one of the fascinating things about this is that Shirley has actually created a painting within a painting. And she's given us an outdoor spring landscape here, and she's given us a still life here. And that's a lot of material, and it could have been really confusing, but she did a nice job of tying it all together and of using the more toned colors to sort of set this back so we feel that it's outside. And yet the brightness of the sky is the focal point. She's used some really good directional elements, the onion top and the tulips, to sort of pull your eye in and around. So it's well orchestrated and well grounded. So good job. This next category is for Best Spring Landscape. And for this award, I chose Wildflowers in Spring, a pastel by Debbie Robinson. And this piece is just a lovely composition of beautiful soft colors. And I think that Debbie did a beautiful job of weaving those colors through the entire composition. The sky is beautiful. No area of color is just solid color. They're all integrated, and it's beautiful. One thing that I like very much about it is this sort of light band that travels through the middle of it. And against that light band, she's put these little trees, which obviously she understands the shapes very well there. You can see their little trunks. You can see a little fence running along there. That helps to give depth to the painting. And we're drawn into it by sort of a zigzag pattern. Very good piece. Our next category is for the best botanical piece. And this is Douglas Fir by Judith Bayer. It is watercolor on hot press paper. And this is one of my favorite pieces. I am really impressed with her handling of this. When I was in college, I wanted to be a botanical illustrator. And I know how very hard it is when you're working with just a mass of green foliage like this and then something brown. There isn't the color to pop it. So what has to work is really good value construction. She's used really nice soft lighting to give roundness to the cones and to give form to the needles of the fir tree there. Beautiful values to set it off. And I think another thing that's really intriguing about this piece is that when we look at something in nature, we understand it because we look at the edges of it. If you're looking at what kind of bird it is, you look at the outline, the edges. So Judith has done a really nice job of creating a beautiful and interesting edge to this piece all the way around. And those edges really describe the needles. You know, they're not sharp needles. It's not a spruce tree. They're the soft needles of a Doug fir. And that edge is just really a beautiful part of the piece. So this next award is for the best representation of renewal. And I said renewal for this one because of the snow in the background, the flowers coming out of the winter. It's called Jewels in the Snow. It's by Carolyn Johnson Bell. And the piece is done in colored pencil. And this is another one of my favorites in the show. I think it's just spectacular. I love the combination, the contrast of these beautifully backlit yellow-orange leaves with the very deep grapey purples of the hellebore. It's beautiful. She's even got a few little droplets of water in there. It's very nicely done, beautiful backlighting. Another thing that I like about this piece that's really strong in any botanical is that she has divided her picture plane very well. The components of the painting run off of the page or run up to the edge of the page so that she's divided the space very nicely. It's a really effective piece. This is also a very beautiful job of framing and manting. It really enhances the colors in the piece. The frame is beautiful, really classy job. This is an excellent painting. So for best representation of spring, I chose The Black Butterfly by Michelle Myers. This piece is a transparent watercolor, and it is a really successful little watercolor. It's all very clean and crisp and beautifully done. My favorite part of the painting are these amanita mushrooms, which she has rendered beautifully. She's even given the feeling that the little warts on the mushrooms have dimension, which they actually do. Lovely shadows underneath them so that they're well anchored in the piece. I like the contrast of the red with the bright green snowdrop foliage. And I think the butterfly is nicely rendered. He feels weightless. So it's a very successful little piece. Another thing I like about it is the handling of the foreground, where she's been quite loose with the treatment of that leaf mold. Little spatter, you know, very nicely done. This piece is entitled Hope. It's by Samuel Hoskins, and it is oil on linen. This is one of those pieces that you walk in and see from across the room, and it has tremendous impact. It deals with the subject matter of the relationship between man and nature, which is pretty challenging. It was really an outstanding piece, I believe. I love the way that Samuel used the lighting to emphasize the man's face. It's got a nice strong diagonal here. But the center of interest is that beautifully rendered little bird, which just sings against the dark background. It's very lovely. The eye moves nicely around the painting. But this one, for me, was about the good idea more than anything else. And so this one is the best of show.